forged in crisis. Leaders become real when they practice a few key behaviors that gird and inspire people through challenging times. With this thought in our minds, the theme for today's talk is leadership in crisis. As COVID-19 tears its way through country after country, town after town, we have with us a leader who has managed one of the biggest business houses of the country, the Aditya Birla Group, and has 20 plus years of leadership experience with us today. Thomas sir, we welcome you. Thomas sir has served as the Chief Marketing Officer for Grasim Industries Limited, Business Head of Pulp Operations, Managing Director and Chief Operating Officer of Aditya Birla Retail Limited. He has also been the Chairman of Confederation of Indian Industries, the National Committee on Retail, Marketing and Textile. Sir graduated as the class valedictorian from IIT Delhi and has been recipient of the Pride of the Department Award. He is also a Harvard alum through its advanced program management program. We welcome you yet again, sir. And I now request Dr. Ranjan Chaudhary, sir, to welcome a guest of honor and kindly moderate the session. Ranjan, sir, you are on mute.
Yeah, I repeat. I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Mamun, for I think the invitation to moderate the session. Indeed, it's my honor and privilege to welcome Mr. Thomas Varghese, the distinguished doyen of industry and the heralding a new era in transformational leadership. It's my privilege to welcome you, sir, Mr. Thomas Varghese, to today's session of Samiksha. We deliberate on issues which impacts us, which affects us in our everyday life. And I think nothing is more important than the context of the current ongoing pandemic, where really we are looking for a transformational leadership to lead us from darkness to light. Thank you, Team Samiksha, and thank you, Mamun, for bringing this very important topic under today's discussion. Mr. Varghese currently heads the textile, acrylic fiber and overseas spinning at Aditya Birla Group. And in his capacity, he is also directors and business heads of multiple other businesses that spans multiple geographies. Mr. Varghese has close to 40 years of professional experience. He has been with Aditya Birla Group for the last 20 years and has held multiple critical positions across businesses. He has served as a chief marketing officer for Grasim's pulp and fiber businesses, as a business head of the pulp operations in Aditya Birla Group, and as the MD and CEO of Aditya Birla Retail Limited. He has been the chairman of the Confederation of Indian Industry, the National Market Committee on Retail, Marketing and Textiles, and also the member of the Coca-Cola Retail Research Council for Eurasia and Africa. He is the current co-chair of Water Cluster Board and of the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. As Mamun mentioned, he is a distinguished alumni of the Department of Textile and Engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, and also an alumnus of Harvard Business School, Advanced Management Program. It is our privilege that he was conferred as the CEO of the Year by Asian Retail Congress 2012 for his impeccable contributions in developing the consumer retail business comprising of supermarkets, hypermarkets in the emerging Indian market. He is also the proud recipient of the Images Award for India's Most Admired Professional of the Year at IRF 2010. Adding to that, the Coca-Cola Golden Spoon Award for the Most Admired Retailer in Indian Food and Grocery in 2010, and also the recipient of the coveted Aditya Birla Group Award for Outstanding Business Leader 2004. A transformational, authentic leader, a highly passionate, motivated, and result-driven top talent management professional who has quickly achieved great heights professionally due to his people management, domain expertise, sustainability initiatives, and continuous improvement skills. We are lucky to have you, sir, amongst us. and hear from you the stories that have shaped you as a leader and prepared you for your current transformational turnaround challenge at Aditya Birla Group, driving textiles, acrylic fiber, overseas spinning division toward growth, profitability, and creating value for the business. Thank you once again, sir, for your humility and your kind acceptance in joining us today on board. And again, on behalf of the director of the Institute, Honorable Professor Manoj Kumar Tiwari, our deans, I once again heartily welcome you to our today's session. So as is customary, I would like to invite our Honorable Dean of Students Affairs, Professor Hema Date, to kindly enlighten us with her kind words and formally inaugurate the Samiksha. Hema Date, madam, please.
Thank you, Ranjan sir. Respected Thomas Varghese sir, Anand sir, faculty colleagues, and my dear students. I'm really thankful to Varghese sir for taking out time from his busy schedule and sharing, today he'll be sharing his rich experience, which will be the great learning from the students. NITIE is always trying to upgrade and improvise on various aspects. NITIE has always had a great learning from all the industrial leaders. It has already created footprints at a global level in the supply chain, and it is also making all the sincere efforts, and it is trying to develop further and further in other domains also. Actually, pandemic has put up so much of crisis. It is a lot of challenges for every industry, but leaders are those who have converted this crisis into opportunity. And today we will be listening to one of such leader who has met all the challenges of COVID, and still they have grown, and successfully they have managed the entire scenario. Actually, it is for our students, it is very, very important to know the leadership qualities, how they are growing, how they are facing the challenges, how they are converting every crisis into opportunity, what are the leadership qualities are required in today's era, or considering the specifically the post-COVID situation, what are the skill sets are required. And all these things are very important for the growth, and for it's not only the question of getting placement, but whatever the stocks, we are getting opportunity to listen to all this from the great leaders. It is not only as a part of the NITIE's curriculum or as a NITIE's activity, this all talks are going to impact your life throughout. And I'm sure all the students will have a great learning. And they are going to utilize this, all the knowledge, whatever they will be gaining from all the leadership talk for their further growth. Now I'm requesting Varghese sir to enlighten our students with your rich experience. Thank you, sir.
Mamun, do we have Professor Khanapuri with us?
Yes, sir, we have, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much, madam, for your enlightening words. I'm sure that I think we are all as excited as the students to listen to Varghese sir. And I think there is no better time right now. I think at this as we tiptoe into the next challenge of turning around not only the companies and the corporates, but turning around the entire country. And I think our esteemed leaders, our Honorable Prime Minister, our Minister for Education are all talking about the recovery shape and how quickly we can recover and how quickly we can move back into the old normal and not the new normal that we are so accustomed to, I think. And how do we actually turn around from this ambiguity and inspire our next generation of leaders who are present today amongst us to be innovative and to be the change agents, to be the catalyst for a different world altogether. So I think it's absolutely, I think, appropriate on your part that we are all excited to learn that what does leadership in the post-pandemic world would be looking like from Varghese sir. May I take this opportunity to invite our esteemed Dean Strict, Professor Vivekanand E. Khanapuri, uh, to say a few words on this occasion, momentous occasion.
Namaskar, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very good evening to all of you. Let me take this opportunity to extend a very warm welcome to Thomas Varghese sir and all my faculty colleagues and the students who are going to be enlightened by one of the leaders in the industry on a very apt topic for the day. I was just wondering when we look at how the leaders and the managers, there's a huge difference in terms of the approach they adopt. And the fundamental things which I could figure out probably are in terms of one, the ability to think beyond and drive the change within the organizations. I think this is where the fundamental difference will come in terms of bringing in a very, very positive perspective, try to empower the employees and see to it that they are able to achieve or move towards those objectives for which the organizations are working towards. In fact, association with Aditya Birla Group, for me personally, has been for more than now 20 years, since the days we worked with Hindalco assignment, and then over the years, right from their Indogul fertilizers to their rayon company in Veraval. And today, when we look at, the company has grown by leaps and bounds, and it is all through the efforts of some of their top leadership team, I believe, who have worked relentlessly towards the achievement of the objectives, whether crisis or no crisis, opportunities being looked at, and how they have been achieving the results consistently. I'm sure you will get a very interesting insight, because this is coming right from the person who has gone through the journey for the last 20 years, and you will be definitely listening from the perspective from the heart, where they would have seen some of those things to be transformed, change to be brought in. And I'm sure with this kind of insights, our students will definitely pick a few of these points, try to imbibe them, and see that they are also going to move towards becoming more effective leaders in future. Once again, I extend a very warm welcome, and I'm sure it will be a very enlightening session for all of us, and I look forward to listening to you, both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Vivekanand Khanapuri, for your inspiring words. And truly, I think that sets a tone for today's discussion. Once again, a warm welcome to Thomas Varghese sir. And sir, we are, as Madam has said and sir has said, we are super excited to learn from you, particularly what does leadership in a post-pandemic world would be looking like. And I think that's a fundamental question and the big question on the minds of the present leaders in the country, as well as the future leaders, like the students of NITIE, whom probably you'd be interacting with in today's session. I think today's our work paradigm, our work model has been forced to shift because of the pandemic in unimaginable number of ways. And emerging leaders for tomorrow's India, for tomorrow's world, I think they will need to be equally adept and agile at managing key stakeholders, both internally as well as externally. So what does our student need to possess in terms of the essential skills that will help their companies, their businesses, their teams to stay competitive in the midst of such unprecedented complexity which is unfolding before our eyes? And I think as we progress, this will even be more stronger and stronger. And how do we build a strong foundation in terms of the leadership acumen to grow their managerial career? I think these are some of the things that our students, including myself as a learner, I'm a very enthusiastic learner, sir. I am looking from you. So how do we learn to manage? How do we learn to manage ourselves more effectively, the crisis more effectively? How do we build our own framework and narrative for leadership? How do we build a grounding team dynamics, interpersonal behavior, and how do we impact the organizational performance positively and effectiveness and be the heralds for change management? Again, sir, on behalf of our Honorable Director, Professor Manoj Tiwari, our Deans, Professor Vivekanand Khanapuri and Professor Hema Datte, Madam, I heartily welcome you to this session, and the floor is all yours, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
So good evening, friends, colleagues. I'm hoping I'm doing a check on time management. We were supposed to start at 6. It's already 6:25. So I'm sure the session will run over, something I would have liked to avoid. But since we are starting almost 25 minutes late, or if the program was supposed to be 6 to 7, please bear in mind that the session will run over because I was planning on a 1-hour session. Thank you so much, Professor Manoj Tiwari, Professor Ranjan Chaudhary, Professor Vivekanand, Professor Hema, and Samiksha for having me here for this address to the students of NITIE. NITIE has long been a very prestigious institution, regarded all over the country as the best in class in terms of producing industrial engineers, and a reputation which goes back into many, many decades of great alumni coming out of this institution. So it is indeed a privilege and a pleasure for me to be with all of you. And I hope that the next hour or so will be useful for you, just as it may be useful for me to understand what you all, especially to interact with you. I would like to spend more time interacting with you because I was very happy to see on the LinkedIn that a number of people have a lot of questions to ask. So I'll try and keep the presentation short. It's a general presentation and you may learn much more through your questions and my experiences. Firstly, I have completed 22 years in Aditya Birla Group and not 20. And therefore, it has been the employer I've worked with the most in my life. And I am in my 40th year of working right now. I also want to introduce my colleague Anant Venkateshan. Anant, if you could put out your camera so that people can see you. He's my executive assistant and he's been involved with me in maybe hundreds of such presentations all over the country and even globally. So thank you, Anant, for being here. Let's move on with the presentation. So, it is either defined as a leadership in crisis or leadership crisis. Now, very interestingly, the name adored is leadership in crisis, or is it blood on the floor, which is leadership crisis? We see a bit of both across different parts of the world. We are seeing some of that play out even in our own corridors in India. That is it really a leadership in crisis or is it leadership crisis? So we've got to be clear. We are going to be talking about how leadership responds in a crisis. Next slide, please. So my definition, the structure would be, I would talk about what is the definition of a crisis, what are the lessons for crisis from leadership for high performance. I'd talk a little bit about my personal mantras, and then, of course, leave a lot of time for Q&A. Next slide, please. What's my definition of a crisis? Next slide. I feel a crisis is a show-stopping, people-stopping, product-stopping event. It causes significant business interruptions. It affects the brand image or reputation management. These are defining moments, and people look up to see how you respond. I would rate the COVID-19 crisis as one of the biggest black swan events to hit the world. It has brought the world to a standstill. It has brought every nation of the world onto its knees. And I don't think in this decade or in this century, we have seen a crisis of this magnitude apart from the world wars. Next. Next slide. So I feel, after a lot of my own experiences, there are 5 leadership core competencies to be displayed in a crisis. I would define them as agility, great communication, courage and perseverance, building credibility, and last but not the least, displaying great amount of emotional effectiveness. Next slide. What is agility? Agility I can keep defined in a very broad way. It's to ensure that we protect our employees and their families. It's an essential prerequisite. We ensure stringent safety SOPs in a workplace. We keep people center stage while considering the whole ecosystem. We look out for our employees, customers, service providers. We have their back. We understand their pains. And more importantly, we learn rapidly by experimenting frequently. We make safe to fail controlled experiments. And people aren't afraid of failure. They're more afraid of blame. So just bearing this in mind. And of course, all this to be done with speed. And that's where a very broad definition of agility as a leadership value and a skill. Next. Look at communication. A very recent example of this was played out in the US elections. Look at how these two leaders communicated differently. Joe Biden, the new president, and Donald Trump, the outgoing president. I don't think I need to say why some shine and some while others fail. I think the communication that you've seen from Donald Trump over the last many, many years is representative of what it really stood for and how he was playing to his respective gallery. Next. It's very important for us to be courageous and mentally tough. And it's very important to communicate this too. What does it really require to be courageous and mentally tough? We need unconditional honesty. We need to be authentic and emphatic. We must understand and fall in love with we rather than I and me. And it's very important that impressions matter. Your values will get displayed. Remember, there is a saying, we always say we must be seen to be fair. We must be fair. But sometimes it's even more important to be seen to be fair. And this is what I've seen throughout my career of last 40 years. Next. Be careful of pitfalls. Avoid obfuscation. Avoid the blame game. And avoid complaining. These are things which people do not appreciate and see through very quickly. And therefore, these are the pitfalls which one should avoid when one is working in a situation of crisis. Next. Courage and perseverance. The only true measure of courage is perseverance under pressure. There are many examples of this, but if you see what you see many times in life and you see in nature, you see what the snail is doing. This is true courage under pressure. And there are thousands of such examples you will see in nature around you and in your colleagues and your peers around you. Next. You persevere when you show courage in your attitude, when you're diligent, when you put in maximum effort, when you demonstrate endurance, you are resilient, and you set goals and have a vision on what to do. It is very important that you never forget the value of hard work, diligence, and effort. Because there is a saying, even God doesn't help those who don't help themselves. So don't think that there are any quick fixes to success. There is nothing to replace hard work and commitment. Next. Build credibility. No, go back to the previous. Build credibility, earn respect with what you do. Let people see you as being authentic and sincere. Avoid being judgmental. Ensure you keep all your commitments and do not stretch the truth. All these will ensure that you earn true respect, that you build trust, you approach issues with open minds and avoid getting your biases and prejudices to influence your decision making. Must remember that even the smallest commitment is important to a stakeholder. And always remember that truth will ultimately prevail, so don't twist facts. These are very, very great leadership skills that you need to possess. Next. Last but not the least is emotional effectiveness. You need to be balanced. You need to be patient. You need to remain calm and composed. You need to think before you act. And when you can't decide, you must take time to validate rather than hurry into a wrong, fatal decision. These are all skill sets to build emotional effectiveness. And I will talk about these towards the end of the presentation again. Next. Therefore, in a sense, my 10 commandments for leadership in crisis would be to have a crisis management plan, communicate openly and honestly with all stakeholders, stare the devil down and be brave, be agile, be action-based, have a crisis management team. You can't do it all alone all the time. Practice, train, and huddle with your team regularly. Have one voice and many people telling the same consistently so that there is alignment, teamwork. Be compassionate and kind. And lastly, do not blame if things go wrong. These are very, very important lessons for us to learn as to how leaders should lead in a crisis. Next. What are the lessons from crisis leadership for high performance? Next. The crisis is the new normal. Can you remember the crisis we have faced in the last 10 years? I've listed some out here, but all of you are familiar with these. To take some of the big ones, the European sovereign debt crisis, the Russian financial crisis, Chinese stock market crisis, and of course, the American meltdown in the early 2000s. And of course, continuing crisis till we came to this one big black swan event. Next. Year 2020, bolt out of the blue, a black swan event that nobody had ever imagined. The novel coronavirus, and a global pandemic that nobody was prepared for. Next. Is this what we call the new normal, which is the VUCA world, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous? I've been hearing the word VUCA world for the last 2 decades, but I can tell you that no situation in my career has looked more akin to a VUCA world than the current crisis of the COVID-19 crisis. Next. So you look at what are the top skills, as you would say you would say intellectually. These were the top skills in 2015. things which would sound quite intuitively logical: complex problem solving, coordination, people management, negotiation, service, active listening, creativity. But you look at what are the things that have got added in the new paradigm that we are in now. Many of them still hold, but emotional intelligence and cognitive flexibility have got added to the skill set. These are the top skill set. It doesn't mean that other skill sets like active listening are not required. They still are very much. So and of course, to ensure that we remain consumer focused and we remain people focused. Those are very, very important attributes for a senior leader to have. Next. In a crisis, the leader is in control of the process and can lead it with full respect. He crafts a sense of us and shapes the team, but it's always about us and not about him. And most importantly, he keeps it very simple. Next. In a very pictorial form, this slide is very telling. What is very important, a leader must be mindful and not have his mind full of things. So it's very important for us to understand the difference between mindfulness and about having your head filled with a lot of things. It's very, very important that we see display of mindfulness, which is very important. And I'll come to this towards the end of my presentation again. Next. Keep information flow as low as possible and use whatever technological intelligence that we can have. Because there is a difference between information, knowledge, and wisdom. And ultimately, what is required is using the information, converting it into knowledge, and gleaning the wisdom from it for leadership to flourish and perform. Next. While results are important, so is the process. I don't know how many of you have seen the movie Pearl Harbor. It's a great example of the Chinese process and plan, which was so meticulous that they could sail all the way from Japan to Pearl Harbor and completely destroy Pearl Harbor, even in the face of overwhelming superiority of the Allied forces. And this is why it is very important that it's not just the results or the outcome, but the process which is very important. And so is it with leadership, that you need to follow the process. Next. So never waste a good crisis. I heard Professor Hema and Professor Ranjan Chaudhary and also Professor Vivekanand talk about it. Make sure that you use the crisis to convert it into a good opportunity. Every crisis has information. Leaders search for it. But the true leaders ride the wave of change and create the change and ensure that a crisis is converted into an opportunity. Next. So what are the major changes that we are seeing today? We are seeing global reordering. We are seeing the power of big data, IoT, machine language, artificial intelligence that every company must have. We are seeing redesign of the business models. We're seeing how to develop business models. We're seeing new ways to manage and new ways to lead, manage and create happiness. This is what we are really seeing as the major changes in the global economic macro world. Next. We are seeing as broad trends, America wanting to go towards self-sufficiency, India on the path of self-sufficiency, Japan withdrawing globally, China having trust issues post the pandemic, and also knowing that the global supply chain has been shattered as a result of the pandemic, and how the recreation of the global supply chain is taking on a new meaning and is also being done in a different way, because of the view that many countries have become protective about their environment. Next. I think we can slip this. We could go to the next slide. It's very important that we build a new business model. Person who understands data and analytics and understands consumers. Without a database going forward, a lot of our decision making will be impaired. It will be difficult. Models to be developed fast as they become irrelevant in a VUCA world. Use the power of algorithms to test POC. You can see that these are the strengths that people from NITIE or the people from IIT have. And these are playing to your core strengths. Look at some of the examples of starting new business models. You can see that Amazon is almost doing 58% of its business from third parties. A good example of a new business opportunity is Walmart going to healthcare. And there are enough and more examples in the Indian ecosystem on a similar vein. Next. How to develop business models? We need to do it from within. We need to take value chain from end to end. And that's where traceability, blockchain, etc., new technologies are playing a role. The CEO has to lead and not the digital head, because it is not about mastering technology, but it is about mastering the business model. We use technology to develop the cockpit. The voice of the customer and analysis through algorithms has become the need of the day. And most importantly, we need to have a single source of truth. And we must ensure that we clean up the data. A lot of businesses find a single source of truth through the enormous database to be a challenge, including us. Next. So what should all this result in? It should result in happiness. It should create positive energy. How will you do it? Get right people in the right job. Make teams and facilitate new learnings. Leaders devote most of their time to getting their people to succeed. Teach your people new skills and ensure that you have a lot of cross-functional teams so that you build alignment and integration and collaboration in your teams. Next. I would like to summarize a very important statement. The seeds of future exist today. Seeds don't grow without human being developing them. This is Mr. Adam, the ex-CEO of Intel Corporation. Actually rumored to be one of the guys who virtually through the semiconductor industry explosion created the Silicon Valley and what exists today. Next. No, I think we'll go to this last. I'll get them to play the video last so that we have some time. Next. I will quickly talk about my personal mantras and then I'll ask the campus to play the video, which I think is very dear to me. My personal mantras, which I would urge, is the result of my 40 years of work experience and my leadership journey over the last 30 years, which has been in leadership roles, is if you practice these three mantras of mindfulness, listening intently, suspending judgment, you will first of all become a better human being. And definitely you'll become a great leader. Now, what do these three things mean? Let me give you an example of mindfulness. Mindfulness covers a lot of stuff. I'll give you a very good example which you can all relate to. You're traveling in a car and somebody zips by on your left at breakneck speed. What is your first reaction? The first reaction is to take out all the choice abuse that you know in either English or Hindi. But actually, you don't know why the man is going fast, right? I have many hundreds of examples, but I'm not going to go into them. But I think I must tell you one more. There was a very rich businessman in China who had heard of a very good seer and a monk in Hong Kong. He got this guy to come down to China when he was building his house. And he picked up this monk from the airport and they were traveling back to their home. And the monk noticed that the businessman was traveling very slowly. And he was wondering why, but he didn't ask the question because he was monk after all. But he was very perplexed to see the man slowing down when in a distance they saw a small child running across the road. So, okay, he understood there's a child running across the road and the businessman slowed down his car. But what was surprising is that when the child crossed the road, the businessman continued to drive the car even slower. So he then couldn't resist. Mind you, we're talking about a monk who's supposed to be the epitome of patience. So he asked this businessman, please explain to me, why are you driving so slowly? So he said that, when I've seen that when there's a child running, there are several children running behind him. And lo and behold, they saw two children immediately cross the road. This is mindfulness. It's a great example of mindfulness. I can give you many more, but I don't think we have the time. Listening intently. You know how you listen. So I don't really need to elaborate on this. I hope you all know that 85% of listening is not hearing. It's about the body language, tone, tenor, emotional status of the person, and most of all, what he or she is not saying. Whereas we all know that even the hearing that we do is not active listening. It is coming out from one ear and going out through the other. Very few of us are active listeners. So listening intently is a quality that you can start developing from today. It will earn you respect. It will earn you great leadership skills in the days to come. Last but not the least, suspending judgment. I have always found that we Indians are particularly prone to judging things and having opinions. We have an opinion on everything. Whether we know anything about it or not, we certainly have an opinion. Many times we also have judged people without really understanding the context. So I would say that never approach an issue about any issues of judgment with a preconceived mind, with our biases that we have, with our own, what we hold us back. We should never judge. But that doesn't mean that you don't have an opinion or a decision or a judgment, but it should be very considered. And that is really what I would ask all of you to learn, that you must learn to suspend judgment for the moment and understand the context before you come to a decision. Practicing these will make you great human beings in addition to being great leaders. And in the current era of Corona, which has disrupted and got the globe to its knees, practice of good leadership qualities will make us all bounce back faster and stronger. Next slide, please. So in summary, this is the new reality. We need to create our own momentum and energy. We need to plan for the unplanned. We need to understand that health is wealth. And most importantly, we need to be safe and healthy and stay blessed. So that is the note on which I would like to end this presentation. Next slide, please. Bad companies are destroyed by crisis. Good companies survive a crisis. Great companies are forced in a crisis. My apologies, the earlier quote was not Andy Grove, this one is. He's the ex-CEO of Intel Corporation. Next. And I end with a note that I will be glad to connect with you. I was delighted to see on the LinkedIn a lot of requests to connect with me. And I also saw the LinkedIn post put up by NITIE and Samiksha. I tried to respond to each one of them because I'm very active on LinkedIn. There are hundreds and hundreds of posts of mine. And of course, I'm very active on Instagram too. I'm not on Facebook. So it will be a pleasure to interact with students. Always happy to guide you because I have invested a lot of my time and energy in the young throughout my 40 years of career. And I would like that each one of you stay safe, stay healthy, and stay blessed. Thank you all very much. And I would like to end with a video, which I would like each one of you to listen to intently before we start the Q&A session. because that will tell you about my thinking process and what I have learned in the last 40 years of my working career. It is very philosophical, but it is a very good thing for you people to start. As you start your careers after passing out of NITIE, it will be very, very important. So I would request the NITIE team to please play the video. Thank you.
Sure, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Please see that the volume is kept high.
Yes, I'll make sure. Thank you.
Volume.
Good morning, friends. I wanted to actually today talk about something which most of us come across in our lives. Especially as one gets older, one starts asking this $1 million question: is what is the true purpose of our lives, and what is true success? I have been thinking of this, like I'm sure many of you have been over the years, and particularly so in the last couple of years, where as I reach almost my last innings in the corporate world, and having spent almost 39 years working across many industries, many businesses, as to what really are we here for? What is the true purpose of our existence? The question may sound very philosophical, but in my view, it's a question that I'm sure has troubled many of us, particularly as we begin to introspect and as we begin to really review our own contribution over our lifetime. As I have contemplated this question and sort of looked at all plausible answers and kept reflecting on it for a while, I have come to a conclusion in my own mind that the true purpose of life, as we see it, we are born, we grow up into adults under the support, love, and care of our parents. We become old enough to get married, and we procreate, and then we grow old. Sometimes we're lucky to see our grandchildren, sometimes we're not. And then, of course, we pass on. So in this process, from cradle to grave, what really have we achieved in our lives? After much reflection and thought, I realized that true success, as measured in our lifetime, is what has been rather your contribution to the lives of others. How have you, in your actions, through your deeds, through your daily transactions, touch the lives of people? Touch the lives of people positively, so that you have actually made a difference in their lives. True success, I have realized and come to a conclusion now, is no longer power, position, wealth, the amount of property you have amassed, or the amount of other assets you have created. The only asset or the only contribution that really matters is how have you made a difference in the lives of people? How have you touched people's lives? How have you helped them? I also, in the last 2 years, as I have reflected on leadership and what is not just the true measure of success, but the true purpose of life and how best to lead it. I've come up with 3 things that I think are very important for each one of us. The first being, we need to be more mindful. Mindfulness is a very extensive word. It covers huge amounts of ground. When you really, weigh the word mindfulness in your mind, it is being mindful to others, it is being mindful to yourself, it is being mindful to the situation around you, it's being mindful to the communities, it's being mindful to all the stakeholders that matter in your life. And the second is, I have realized that while we all talk about listening intently, very few of us actually do. We don't really listen, most of us hear. And almost 90% of us, even in the process of hearing, are formulating a response to the person who's addressing us or who's talking at the moment. And therefore, listening intently goes way beyond just hearing the spoken word. It's about understanding the emotional state of the person who's speaking. It is about looking at the tone and tenor in his voice. It is about his emotional status. It's about his expressions of his eyes, his hand movements, the body language in full. As you know, communication is more about all these rather than the spoken word. And third, which I think all of us are guilty of, including me, is passing judgment. I think one of the greatest qualities a human being can hope to aspire to is to learn how to suspend judgment. We are so quick to judge. We're so quick to have opinions. We're so quick to have, our own premeditated views, attitudes, behaviors, without really understanding, without empathizing, without putting ourselves in the other's shoe. When we are actually in a position to listen without passing judgment. So as I reflect on these very significant questions of life, that is about what is the purpose of life, how do you measure true success, and how do you really become a better human being? I personally feel that if each one of us practices mindfulness, learns to listen intently, learns to suspend judgment, and tries to measure his success in life by the number of lives he has touched or the number of people he has helped in his journey through his life, we will be in a much better place as humanity. These questions even become more significant now as we are confronted with the COVID-19 scenario and the reality of COVID-19, where the world as we knew it has come to a standstill. The word lockdown has become probably one of the most popular words in the English dictionary. Shutdown and lockdowns are something which we in our lifetimes have not seen to the scale and intensity we are seeing today. So as we pass through this crisis, my request to all my friends, my loved ones, and all the people who are listening to this is try to be better human beings. Try to measure the true success of your life. Practice the level 6 leadership of humility, kindness, authenticity. Be more mindful, listen more intently, and stop passing judgment. I really wish all of you the very best as we navigate through these troubled times. And my parting advice is that you all must stay safe, stay home, and stay blessed. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I think I was
So
completely
I have to-
engrossed. I was
So,
completely engrossed listening to you on mindfulness and I think the importance of discipline while trying to lead a more successful life. So there are a few questions. So if you kindly allow me to do so, I can quickly take a few of them.
no, I am very happy to take any questions because this is an investment into the students. And as long as you people have the time, I have no problems. I told you we lost 25 minutes of the session. So we don't want to lose for the students' sake. Every question that they have, I'll try to answer. So please, let's get to the questions.
Okay, so I think there is a few questions which has also come on WhatsApp, a few questions which is right now on the chat board. So this is regarding an early career decision. So often I think youngsters who join the corporate realize perhaps this is not in the best of their interest, or perhaps they had made a wrong decision in joining a company which might not provide them the necessary impetus to grow in their lives. And subsequently there is a resentment, and the resentment grows stronger, and as a result of which they switch jobs. As it said, that people leave their companies, they leave their bosses, and they move to other pastures. So sir, being at the helm of affairs for the last 22 years at Aditya Birla Group, what is your advice to manage such crises in life, particularly for the people who are just shaping up their careers?
Thank you, Professor Ranjan. Um, I can only say two things. One is, first and foremost, something I've not talked about, but which I'm very passionate about, is that people should know what is their passion. And I think it's easier said than done. I'm not sure how many of us know our passion, but we must make an effort to understand what is it that we are passionate about. What is it that we really want to accomplish in our lives? And I would say that ensuring that you understand your passion and early start of your career should be about following that passion. Anant, please put yourself on mute. Anant, you're not on mute. Follow your passion, and more importantly, ensure that the first 5 to 10 years of your life are spent in learning. You see, we are all very quick, and I face this problem with a lot of youngsters, particularly. They are very bothered about what is their designation, what is their compensation package, what is their job band, rather than understanding what are the business challenges, what are the opportunities that are offered to them, what are the multiple opportunities that they strive to achieve in the process of learning and making themselves really, really indispensable in terms of knowledge. So my early part of my career, the first 10 years was spent in acquiring knowledge and never ever questioning why I was shifted from one place to the other. I took those opportunities. I had 3 or 4 shifts in the first 10 years in the same company. I opted after every 3-4 years to learn a new, become a subject matter expert in a certain domain. And I can tell you that this learning and this attitude towards learning stood me in good stead. Because the first change I took, I was very young and I joined a team of very, very highly qualified professionals, all of whom were vice presidents at the age of 55 to 58. I don't think there was anyone younger than 55 in that company as a VP. And I think when I became a VP along with them, and they were my colleagues, I was probably a little more than 34, 33, 34. So use your first few years to learn. Don't go after the material gains that I'm not saying they're not important, but I can tell you they will come automatically to you. But last but not the least, follow your passion. Because when you follow your passion, you will automatically do very well. I hope that answers the question, Professor Ranjan.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. So there is a wonderful query. Now, since you have seen live and seen the corporate grow and evolve along with you and have been instrumental in transforming Aditya Birla Group to the billion-dollar conglomerate that we see Aditya Birla Group today. The question here is that if, and that's an hypothetical question, by chance, by sheer stroke of luck, if you are on a time machine and if you are going down the memory lane 3 decades back and given a chance to recreate or redo what you have done, so what you have done differently?
I think that's a very good question. And I think, my life has been full of challenges. I went through a number of challenges. I worked with a polyester company. I started my career with a nylon company, a leading industrial house, then joined a polyester company. And at one point in time, I had an opportunity, a challenge, when one of the largest polyester companies in the country, who were just setting up huge mega capacities, approached me to head the polyester marketing for them. It was a very big challenge because I was going to take on one of the leading industrial houses in the country. And nobody gave this company a chance to succeed. But not only did we succeed, we actually did excellently. That gave me a lot of confidence. So later on in life, a few years later, when Mr. Birla asked me, I met Mr. Birla and we met, and we had a very long interview. His first question to me was, so when are you going to join us? Of course, it's a different factor that I'd actually gone there to meet Mr. Birla, the person, because I may never get the chance to meet him in person. But anyway, eventually I did join the company. And I remember his words to me in the second meeting I had. He said, Thomas, I've got a fire and you've got to put it out. And in the next 22 years in the group, it was those kind of roles that I did. The turnaround roles. I turned around the pulp and fiber business. I went to one of the largest complexes of the group at that time in Harihar, turned that around, which was almost given up because from a marketing role, I moved into a manufacturing role, managing workmen, managing a very large industrial workforce of almost 6,000 people, having severe environmental issues in that plant, quality, profitability, turning it around, making it into one of the best units globally in the Gallup manufacturing database on engagement. And of course, making it probably ABG's one of its best units because it's the only one which has won the Platinum Award of World-Class Excellence. So, and after that, to be suddenly asked to take charge of retail business, which was something completely different, and to see that I was able to work almost 16 to 18 hours a day for 4 years. I didn't take a day's break. I worked those 4 years, 365 days, because I didn't have any knowledge of retail. And then to become a very good retail professional, to be considered in the league of a Nagesh or a Kishore Biyani, with just that little experience, was only the result of hard work. So my advice to everyone is that take the opportunities, do not remain in your comfort zones, never shy away from opportunities which throw challenges at you, and do your best. And like I said at the outset, there is no substitute for hard work and commitment. And, many times when my daughter was young, she would ask me, Dad, I want to make money, but I don't want to work hard. So I used to always tell her, that's a very good outcome you want, but that's not going to happen because you need to work hard. And I think as she's grown up, she's realized that that's the way it is. So my advice to people is there is no substitute for hard work. Take up challenges at every walk in life. And to answer the question which was asked to me, no, I would not change anything in the way my life has gone. Like I said, if I had to dye myself, I would still dye myself in the same colors, with the same challenges. Maybe I would have done some things better, but I think that was part of learning. Because I learned at every job that I took, I learned from bottom up, from zero base. That was a great learning experience for me.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, in very similar lines, I think there are a few questions which has come, but let me try to summarize all of them together and put them in as a one construct. So in spite of the best intentions, sometimes we make it's human. So it's art to human. So we make a wrong decision, and then we realize that the decision has been wrong. It could have been otherwise. I could have taken path B or path C instead of choosing path A. So if you can share with us such challenges in your life where perhaps because of a momentary impulse, a decision was different than it should have been, and that was a big challenge for you to overcome. And how did you overcome that challenge when all the odds were against you?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. But, again, I go back to people finding their own passion. And I feel that if you feel that you made a mistake and you are truly clear that that mistake is not in line with what you want to do in your life, you should try to correct it, and you should not let it linger on. You should not continue down that path, because that path is not going to take you to happiness. And I can say that, when I was called by chairman and asked to take over retail, I was totally in a state of shock, because I realized that I had known nothing about retail. And believe me, it's the most difficult business in the world to run. And I realized that I had black hair when I started, and I ended up after 4.5 years having completely white hair, working 16, 18 hours a day, 365 days a year, and still finding it difficult to make progress. Yeah, so do I have any regrets? Was it a wrong decision? I don't think so, because I learned so much. It gave me so much credibility in the industry. I chaired the CII Retail Council for 4 years. I chaired the CII Marketing Council for 3 years. It is something which is unheard of. And even if you get to chair as chairman of CII's National Committee on these two, even one session is considered to be very, very creditable. So I think I earned respect. Fortunately, because of my position as the managing director and CEO, I made a lot of friends and a lot of contacts across the entire Indian industry in those 8-9 years that I was very active with CII. I'm very proud to say that FDI in Indian retail was the result of the effort of CII's Retail Council with the Government of India when I was the chairman. So I think there are a lot of things. Yes, you have regret about many things in life. You asked me a very simple question. Do I have regret about what I did my whole life? Maybe. I always think about it. I was a cricketer when I was a schoolboy. Many of my friends, my colleagues who used to play with me, went on to become Indian cricketers. They played for the India team colors at the test level. Did I have regrets about my not following up cricket when I went to IIT? I had. For many years I had, because I always thought that was my passion. So I did not follow my passion. And that's not the mistake I would like any one of you to make. Now, maybe that life may not have been as good for me as it is today, as what I have accomplished, but it truly was my passion. So yes, there are regrets at some of the decisions in life. I've done many divestments. I've done many closure of companies. Could they have been different? The answer is yes, they could have been different. But life is about moving on and taking decisions as they come. Have I had failures? Of course I've had failures in life. But you must move on, because you must believe that you did your best. And I go back to my philosophical thought that, as long as you feel that you have touched the lives of people and you have helped them, I think your purpose in life has been served. I hope, Professor Ranjan, that I have answered the question in some oblique way.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, I'll end up in, I think, because of paucity of time, maybe another 2 or 3 questions. Sir, the next question that comes is regarding the focus, the society's focus and the society's trust on developing technical skills and competence. So parents want us to become engineers, doctors, and other professionals. So always there is a consistent effort to develop on the technical expertise, to develop more on the IQ, intelligence quotient. But how do you now, as after 22 years of leadership at the helm of affairs at Aditya Birla Group, how do you think it is important, or rather, how do you think, instead of too much focus on society and our educational system on developing this traditional intelligence, how do you think should we transform to more of developing emotional intelligence?
Yeah, so I think again we go back to the question, and let me give you here some personal anecdotes so that it can relate and resound with the students who all come from similar backgrounds. My son is an engineer, and when he passed out of engineering, he passed out with a distinction, which is not very easy in engineering. He got a job at TCS, and I was very happy. He was going to be posted in TCS Software Center in Trivandrum, and that's where my mother used to live. I was very happy that he would spend time with his grandmother, which he had never spent in his entire lifetime. But 3 days before he was to move to Trivandrum, he came and told me, "Dad, I need to speak to you." He had never told me that in his life. So I made him sit down and I said, "Okay, Philip, what is it that you want?" So I said, "Dad, I can't go through with this." I couldn't understand for a moment what he meant by go through with it. So I said, "I can't do a 9 to 5 job." Believe me, I almost fell off my chair. And I said, "What do you mean you can't do a 9 to 5 job? Your dad has been doing it forever. And what is wrong with a 9 to 5 job?" It is only then that I came to know what he was passionate about. And it was strange that at least I was not aware of it. Maybe his mother was. But even she was not aware, because we didn't force him to do engineering. Like you said, we left the choice to him and he took that choice. He wanted to become a pilot. And then came the whole agony that what would happen to his life. When I did some checks, I found 6,000 pilots were sitting with CPL licenses on the bench without jobs. But we helped him achieve his dream. We sent him to the US. He got trained, came back in record time, I think 7 months, probably a record, and appeared for his, the exam, DGCA exam, and cleared it. Was very fortunate. With those 6,000 pilots sitting on the bench, he got a job with Indigo. It's been almost 10, 11 years. He's a commander now with more than 8,000 hours of flying. And he's a line training captain, soon aspiring to become a simulator instructor. And he pursued his passion. He's happy. He's in a very good place. And I wouldn't wish him anything else, because he had the courage to change and course correct. The story of my daughter is similar. She's one of India's leading singer-songwriters. I had dreams that she will join an FMCG company after doing an MBA. She's an economic and stats graduate from Xavier's, passed out with distinction, but decided to pursue music as her career, singing and songwriting. And today, she's also in a happy place. So I'm just giving these personal anecdotes so that it becomes very easy for children to relate, for our young students to relate as to why it is very important to follow your passion and to understand early on in life what you need to do. So that's what I would guess is what everyone should put their heads together. I've seen that there are people who have tremendous talent. It could be creativity, they could be painters, they could be writers, they could turn out to be good journalists, they could be good lawyers. Please don't think that the world is only full of engineers and doctors. There are so many professions worthy of being pursued, who have probably salary potential which is exponential to what an engineer or a doctor earns. So please follow your passion. I know I'm addressing a bunch of engineers, but don't get stuck with engineering if that is not your calling. That would be my advice to you. I hope what I'm saying makes sense.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, maybe the second last question is, in the age of instant gratification, when people are looking for anything and everything to happen at a few clicks, or maybe in a couple of minutes, and we easily tend to lose steam when things doesn't turn out as they sometimes are, of course. So what is your advice for the generation Z to develop and inculcate this habit of perseverance, which you have focused on your 10 commandments in life? What they should
I
ideally
think,
should do?
I think, Professor Ranjan, what you said is very true. We are living in a world of instant gratification. We are living in a world of social media. What we project is very important to most youngsters because they would like to project a lot to their friends, to their various stakeholders. My suggestion and my advice to people would be that really instant gratification is not a panacea for anything in your life. There is a saying in English that nothing comes easily without effort and without commitment and without discipline, dedication. So remember one thing, that it doesn't matter if you are very clear about what you want to do. Try, you fail, you get up, you again try, and you keep trying till you succeed. And that is perseverance. Be patient, because everything will not come in an instant. Everything in my life did not come in an instant. But I learned the virtues of patience, because good things will come to those who believe in it and who are patient enough and persevering enough to wait for it. So never let failure ever affect you, because remember, failure is always the stepping stone to future success. And if you don't have failures, you will never know what is the sweet taste of success. So I would say that never give up, never get despondent, never get depressed, because you must believe in yourself and your capabilities. You have it in you to achieve your dreams, and you must pursue it relentlessly. That would be my advice to the people.
Thank you so much, sir. One last question is there is always a discussion that we hear now in contemporary management discussions and forums regarding technological obsolescence because of the abundance of manpower and so much of automation, so much of AI, machine learning is happening across industries, so much of bots being employed for jobs which were earlier done by the human labor force, that it's going to a point of concern. So as we understand that though truly talent across the world are as on to date is still appreciated and it's huge demand, talent who are professional, who are dedicated, who are sincere to their work, but at the same point of time, I think there is going to be an obsolescence of manpower. So a little futuristic, but as a leader who has been in the industry for so many years, has been a creator of so many transformational stories, what is your look? What is your advice for the Generation Z who are just stepping in a few months from now into their corporate career?
Yeah, so I think very relevant question, Professor Ranjan, and I would say that is very simple. You have to change with the times. And when technology is rapidly evolving, digitization is spreading all over, we have to ensure that we have relevant skill sets to face the future. Otherwise, we will become obsolete. So there is no choice. We have to change with the times. And this is what was the main focus of my presentation, that if technology is going to embrace every aspect of our life, then the future learning and the future generations of tomorrow need to be technologically equipped to deal with this new normal. And there is no substitute for it. And it's not technology only for an engineer, it's technology for everyone. If I'm a creative artist, it will be using the CAD and CAM. If I'm a graphic designer, it will be about using the latest technologies to do graphic designing using technology. So I think there is no substitute. Use the right words. It's not only technological obsolescence, it will become people obsolescence if we do not retrain ourselves and reskill ourselves. So I would say that that's very important going forward. And without that, we will become irrelevant in a period of time. I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Sir, so in your own words, sir, I can read and once again reiterate that the 2020-2021 demands an ability to understand and navigate complex problem-solving skills, more critical thinking skills, more creativity, more focus on people management, more coordination with the team and within the team, more focus on emotional intelligence, more judgment and decision making, more service orientation, more ability to negotiate situations which are difficult or situations which seem seemingly out of control, and more focus on cognitive flexibility. So, sir, indeed, it has been a wonderful session, sir. And as we end toward the program, the society's expectations, sir, for business are rising, and customers, particularly the younger ones, they want to know what the companies they engage with are doing with, and for the world. So this 9 in 10 Generation Z consumers believe that companies have a responsibility to address environmental and social issues. Younger people think that environmentally and socially focused companies are better prospective employers, and the vast majority say that they would be more loyal to companies aligned with those values. So as demands for social accountability rise, so do the demands on leaders. So in this Samiksha, blessed with your presence and blessed with your thought-provoking discussion and deliberation, and that's none other than brought to us by a real life leader in action like you. This provided us with a glimpse of the emerging new leadership imperative that India is looking forward to. Thank you so much, sir. It was such an enlightening session. I am sure that our students who are starting their MBA journey and students who would embark on their corporate journey, all of them would be able to reflect on their actions with more wisdom and knowledge from now onward. The day starts exactly today for them. Thank you so much, sir, again for answering their queries with such ease and patience. I'd like to hand over and request our student coordinator to deliver the vote of thanks.
Just give me a minute because you brought out a very important point and I just want to respond to it, Professor Ranjan.
Sir.
For all of you who are hearing, in 2012-13, when we started our sustainability journey, I would say we were at zero level. And in the last 8 years, we have become one of the leading exponents of sustainability in the world of textiles globally. And this has happened because we took up the issue, which rightly you pointed out, that it's not only customers, it is all stakeholders are looking at corporations which are committed to the cause of sustainable planet, which is ensuring that we live behind a planet for our future generations, which will be habitable and in which they will find happiness and they will feel comfortable. So I think sustainability is a very major theme. In fact, I don't know what is the curriculum at NITIE, but sustainability as a curriculum for NITIE could be a very important area going forward. And if you have it already, which you probably do, I would urge a lot of professionals in the next 10 to 20 years, there will be a focus on sustainability experts in professions. So my best wishes and thank you so much for having me. It was a great privilege for me to be at NITIE. Just like 2 years ago, I was invited to be a guest, chief guest at the IIT graduation program at Delhi. I don't think any award or any recognition was greater than my alma mater calling me to be a chief guest. And I think it's the same with NITIE. I think NITIE is a great institution, poised for even greater things in the years to come. And I wish all the students the very best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
I hope whatever I've said has left some thoughts in people's mind and hopefully will add some value to your lives going forward. Thank you so much.
True that, sir. Yeah, I think your words have left an indelible impression on the minds of the future leaders. And of course, we have a course on sustainability, sir. We have a 2-year program on sustainability. Other than that, we also have sustainability as a core course for across the programs, whether it's industrial engineering or industrial management. Over to you, Mamun, for the vote of thanks. Thank you so much.
It was indeed an enriching experience to listen to Thomas sir about his life experiences. We hope our budding managers and leaders would have learned a lot from your experiences, and we are really thankful for the same, sir. So, with your permission, we'd like to take a photograph. Uh, so,
Sure.
so I request all the panel members